You know, it's one thing when you're writing books about raising kids when it's all theory, but when you've been in the middle of it for 30 plus years, working with kids and their families through really painful situations, it's a crucible, and it really brings out the best in someone when you're working through tough issues like Mark has. His experience at Heartlight, he's had a front row seat living with these kids who've got some pretty serious problems.
Mark comes in with this world-depth knowledge of families and teens. He's not only knowledgeable and passionate, but he's done this thing called Heartlight, this parenting today's teens for 30 plus years. He's lived it. There's just something about him. He's youthful, but he's wise. He's engaging, but he's authentic at the same time.
The most giving person in the world. He would do anything for anybody. He wants to help these families, whatever it takes.
So many people see how authentic Mark is, and that's what's built some platforms for him to take our school right here to the masses.
She was lost. We knew that we weren't qualified. I just kept praying, God, I need an answer. I need to know what to do. I got in the car that day to take her to school, and on the way home, I hear Parenting Today's Teens with Mark Gregson from Heartlight, and I was like, thank you, God. Like, I've been praying, what do I do? Where do I go? Within a week, a spot had opened up, and we packed up, and we were at Heartlight.
I have a 30-minute commute to work every day. Mark advertised for his Families in Crisis conference, and it just collected. It was like, oh my gosh, we've got to go to this. Mark was just unbelievable. I mean, he just spoke to us and to our hearts, but it was so comforting to know that we're not in this alone, and that was the biggest part.
Mark has become known as a radio personality, but it's really not radio that he's all about. Radio is just a vehicle. We'll speak over any channel that we have at our disposal to reach families. You know, as a producer for Mark, one of the fun things that I have to do is tell him what he can and can't say on radio. Radio does have some limitations, and Mark is kind of an unplugged, unfiltered guy. And he has a very realistic view of life. But that's what the audience loves, is they love hearing him talk about kids in a way they feel like he really does get them. He knows where they're coming from. It often manifests itself by the way he just sort of talks about families and kids in a believable way. Yeah, he's on more than 1,600 radio stations. That's just a vehicle to talking to parents and helping kids.
We always look at the behavior of kids, and we never look at their heart. We try to stop what they're doing and control them rather than get to the issues. And I've always said that behavior is the visible expression of the invisible issues on the inside. So I always thought that we've got to touch the heart of kids. It's amazing to me that kids want to spend time with me. I mean, look at me. I'm 64 years old. I'm turning colors. I've got a mustache from 1880. I've got a hairstyle that went out like 1 billion years ago. But they're dying for somebody to listen to them. And I think that component really says you're important. You have a story to tell. There's something about you that's unique. You were worthy to be heard. And I think when a child begins to feel that, now those problems and those other issues just kind of go out the window because they really feel valued by somebody. And just being heard makes all the difference in the world.
I'm a little biased, being the son of the founder, but it really has to do with the relationships that are built at Heartlight. And that really does start with Mark and Jan, mom and dad. That is who they are. They're relationship-based.
It's been an amazing ride, and it's been tough, and it's been worth it. And some years are tougher than others. And they have stuck through it. They have stuck together with each other, and we have grown closer as a family, too.
I would have never have seen that as the future for Mark and me from just starting with small groups of children and families at the time. You want families to be strong and healthy and be together, yet there's a need, and the need was bigger than I think either one of us ever saw that future.
Mom and Dad started just building Heartlights really without a plan, just what they thought would be 8 kids forever. Then we started growing and growing and having to build new buildings when more kids came. We've never had a master plan, but the master has had a plan. And that's from 1989 with one building, 8 kids, to currently 30 years later with 3,000 kids that have walked through here, 60 kids at a time on 12 to 14 different buildings.
Heartlight is family.
People have always said, hey, why don't you keep growing Heartlight? I mean, that's like the tendency to keep enlarging in an emergency room at a hospital, and you get it bigger and bigger and bigger. But why don't you spend some time helping people where they don't have to come to the emergency room? Heartlight is a wonderful place, and it's a great place for kids who are struggling and need to be away from home. But it's not the only answer, because not everybody has to send their child off to get answers. That's where we want to be on TV. We want to be on the radio. We want to have podcasts. We want to engage in any way possible to share all the stuff that we're learning from all the kids that have lived with us. And the kids that live with us are no different than everybody else's kids. But we get to learn from them and then take those little bits of wisdom, those little nuggets of truth, and share them with families and say, if you can engage some of this stuff, you'll keep your child from ever having to come live at Heartlight.
We thought we were alone on this path, and we weren't. We were surrounded with other families who were in the same place we were.
Now, my relationship with my dad is probably one of the best relationships I have in my life.
Just because you go to Heartlight doesn't mean your kid's gonna be fixed. That's not what Heartlight does. It doesn't fix your kid. It gives your kids and the parents the tools that they need to make it through life.
I think dropping it off was the toughest day of my life, and this was the happiest day of my life.
We're always striving to make Heartlight better. I think it's the finest place in the country, there's no doubt. And it's effective, and the success rate is just absolutely amazing. I think a lot of our future success will be preventing families from having to send a child here. That there's enough resources and opportunities for families so they can live a life with their kids the way that God has designed their family to be.